Welcome to the episode of Just More Fix. This is James. With me in this episode is Lacey.
Hey.
You can find us online at justmorefix.com or on Twitter at justmorefix. If you like us, you can support us at Patreon, and you can give us a rating and review at iTunes or wherever you find us at. In this episode, we're going to talk about adventures in online gaming. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix.
I'm Willie D. Nelson from All Things Good and Nerdy, a pop culture podcast, part of the Gonna Geek Network. Just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other tantalizingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Welcome to Just More Fix. Couple quick announcements before we get things rolling today. So we are back on the mics today, and this is our first episode recording since I got back from New York. So thank you for everyone that sort of hung out with us and stuck through our little brief hiatus there while I went to New York to work for a little while. So we are back, and things are going to get back on schedule and be releasing again every week as we had been in the past, and all of that awesomeness. So yeah, I guess we're back, and that's awesome. And hopefully everyone is back too. I don't know if you guys went anywhere. What am I talking about?
I don't.
Okay.
Hopefully everyone is well and your mental health is not suffering in this weird isolation time.
Yeah, exactly. So second announcement is that the isometric map for the Hastings party is done.
It looks
I know. I was super happy with it. So I posted it on the Patreon, and if you it's a put up as a public post. If you're kind of curious as to what the theme of our zines and that kind of stuff look like, it is posted there on our most recent update, and it was done by Forge Studios, and it was done by Robert Rudnicki. So super happy with it. It's really cool. I have two versions of it, and we'll probably post the other version up there in case anybody wants to print it off for their games. I have one that's going to go into the zine, which is no grid, and then I have a second version of it that has the grid on it. So I think in the PDF we'll probably include both, but in terms of the printed version of it in the zine, it's sort of like the centerpiece of the zine, and it's just going to be the non-gridded version of it. So, but super happy with it, and it is up on our Patreon right now. So if you're curious to check it out and you want to take a look at it, you can check it out at you can check it out at patreon.com/justmorefix. That's all one word, and I believe it is the most recent update that's on there as this episode drops. So yeah, super happy and to have that one done, and I think we're probably going to use them, Forge Studios, to do some more of our map design and isometric stuff, because I'm a big fan of the isometric look, and they did a fantastic job, and I'm super stoked for what they have there. So I think that is it. The only other announcement that we have is that work on Three Sisters continues. So Lacey's been plugging away at that while I've been gone. Gonna start getting that to layout and everything else now.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I have been working.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. And so that'll be starting. I will be starting the layout process with that because fortunately, since we are both working on it, writing and layout can kind of happen at the same time and be flexible that way. And so look for some more updates coming to that, both on the Patreon and on the Kickstarter updates as well. So lots of stuff coming in the very near future. So super happy and super glad to get back to our gaming life and trying to return to whatever this new version of normal is. So alrighty, right on. So today we are going to talk about some online gaming stuff. So as all of you probably have figured out by now, we don't do hardly any online gaming. So this is
because we
well, that, but also we've been very fortunate to be able to sort of cultivate a good table that we've had some revolving, some people that came and gone throughout different times, but we're very fortunate to have a really good solid gaming group at our table. And so this has affected our gaming pretty heavily because we don't really have any online gaming presence at all, really. So it was a bit of a adaptation. We had to sort of adapt and overcome, I guess, however you want to say that.
And we took at all.
Yeah, I guess we did, didn't we?
So you're sort of like, well, we can't see each other now. Guess we're not gaming. And then we're like, well, this is gonna work.
Right. Eventually, the Jones for gaming got too much, and we decided to suck it up, and we couldn't freebase game anymore, so we had to just find a different route, I guess. Right. All right. So while I was gone, Lacey started gaming online with everybody before I got home. So I have played it in one session though, so I'm far from a veteran of the online gaming space like Lacey here, who has 3 times as much experience as me.
Also, it's much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But so I thought we might just kind of talk about a few of the things that maybe we have noticed because we're basically brand new to it and what we have done that has sort of worked for us so far. So You haven't ran any games yet online, right? Have you only been playing?
Yes.
Okay. So, and it is the same for me. However, this Saturday, I think it's Saturday, I'm supposed to be running Morkborg, as they say. I'm going to take this off. Didn't realize I'm all McVicker today.
I was to say branded hoodie, branded t-shirt.
There you go. I'm jonesing for the mats. I can't help it. Anyway. So first off, I guess what prompted it? Was it just the fact that we had gone for so long without gaming? And then like who threw the idea out there?
I think Carrie did. I think as in most good thing. She's the one that's willing to take the leap to newness.
Okay.
We're all like, yeah, we love games, but we can't. And Carrie's like, but we could. Let's do this.
Right. Plus,
I think it helps too that she's doing the online teachery thing right now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Sort of like investigating ways to overcome physical obstacles.
Right. No, that makes sense because it's a kind of a way that she's been forced into figuring that space out anyway, and it works well.
So I could go back at the text to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Carrie.
Okay, well, just for sake of argument, we'll just say it was Carrie. And I believe you. I think it probably makes the most sense.
If it was not Carrie, then it was either Alan or Kurt, all of who are in the teachery sort of realm. So either way, mad props to the teachers of the world.
Right on, yeah. Still getting it done, right? Right on. So
the rest of us are busy figuring out how to avoid meetings. You guys are responsible for turning your classroom into meeting.
Boy, if that isn't the truth, conference calls, I hate them so bad. Like, do I have to be on another one?
So he was like, oh, we could have this on Zoom. I'm like, I'm not downloading another app on my phone.
Yeah.
Figure out a different method.
Yeah.
No.
I just have to call into a thing, and now I don't have to call anymore because the password is saved to my phone. So I hit one button, and it dials the number, and it's got a couple commas in there. So then it waits to put in the password at the right time. And I'm like, whoever figured this out is a genius because I don't have to do anything now, which is really cool. So, all right. So as far as a platform to game on, though, we're using Facebook Messenger with a video chat part of it. Is that right?
Which before this, I didn't even know you could do on Facebook Messenger. I just figured out like right before we started gaming that you could even video chat with Facebook Messenger because I was talking to who had an iPhone in our family. And I was like, oh, we don't have FaceTime, so we can't talk to you because I have an Android. And they're like, oh, Facebook has a video messaging thing. And
I think I knew it had it because I like used my giant fingers and pushed the wrong button. And then it was like a tempting video call. And I was like, oh, this is weird.
But I definitely did not know group video chat.
The group part I didn't
know.
No
idea.
Right. So I guess the first part is, before we get into the details about it, are you satisfied with the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Right on. So I think the first thing...
Well, I guess I can't say 100%. I would rather be doing it in person. So 90%.
Do you really think 90%? Or is it like...
I think it's been good.
Okay, right on. I'm just curious because, and I know it's kind of a hard thing to put a number on because, and it's not to say like has anything to do with the quality of the game or anything, because no matter how good the game is, it's more about the overall experience because you're interfacing through a laptop essentially, right? Mm-hmm. So
I can see where I do need to have a better grasp set than you would in person, just because breaks in continuity are much more evident in the video chat realm than they are in person. So and plus, not everybody has access. You know, like normally if I'm running a game and maybe you have a question, I can be like, well, here's the book, you look it up.
Right.
So if not everybody has the book and you're not all together, then that's no longer a possible thing.
Right. Right on. So I think the first part to point out with this is that this is our normal gaming group that's playing in this situation, because I think some of the mileage may vary, like your experience may vary depending on who's at the virtual table with you. I guess I'm going to put air quotes around that, I guess.
Yeah. And I will say that Alan an online game for a convention, and I had kind of thought about signing up for the convention and paying to join his games to play in it and to support the con.
Right.
And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I really don't feel like game with strangers right now. Like I just don't want to.
Right.
And I definitely don't want to digitally.
No, I get it. I think it makes sense, especially if you're going to spend the time to sit down and game. I'd rather be interacting with people that I know and my friends, because just the current situation, you've got limited interaction anyway. So I think it'd just be more valuable and more fun.
It's comforting. Like I missed my people. I missed them so much. And to the degree that I didn't really appreciate until I saw them all in the video chat. And then I was, oh my gosh. I'm so happy I could cry.
we're pack animals. That's how it works, It's all good. So I guess the first part of this is that since it is people that that are our normal gaming group and we're already familiar with, one of the things I don't think that we can necessarily tackle is because we've been playing games together for quite a while, and I think we all have a pretty good idea of where each other's comfort level is in terms of like theme and tone and that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So the games that you guys were playing were published adventures from Lamentations, so the Flame Princess, right?
Yes. We actually went through all 3 scenarios of Forgive Us, and then the session that we started was
No Rest for the Wicked.
Oh, okay.
And then England Upturned is the one supposed to be next.
Docket next.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do think it's important to mention that, as with a lot of Lamentations products, there is some content that may not be for everyone. It's some mature content and has all kinds of different flavor in it. So I think, do you I don't know, maybe you don't even have an answer to this, but like in terms of running those style of games, do you think you would be able to tell if someone was not comfortable with the material that you're playing or no?
I think it would be more difficult. I think probably just the largest way to pick up on it, because you can see people, but everybody is a little bit smaller and it's a lot to pay attention to all at once. So it's not just as easy as looking over an individual in person.
Right.
But I think gauging the amount of interaction and, how often someone is speaking up or whether just sitting silent, you can kind of pick up some indication. But I think this is one of those things where it might be important to actually every so often look at, that kind of thing.
No, I agree. It's one of those things where it's kind of funny to tell because especially if you're playing in games that have some more mature content or whatever, it can be kind of difficult to navigate those waters. One thing that just occurred to me that we didn't actually have to be used is that one benefit to it, though, I could see is that since when you're all around a table, right, if you have the X card or the stoplight in the middle of the table, right, and you're going to use those safety tools, sometimes there's a stigma that comes along with using those and should I or shouldn't I, right? But in terms of being online in gaming, you can send a message back and forth to someone, to the game master or whatever, without anyone having any idea, right?
Right.
And so there's some...
I guess that is kind of one drawback is if you're accessing on your phone, then you can't really see the video chat and the messaging at the same time.
At the same time.
But if you have it pulled up like on a laptop, it pulls a separate window for your video chat that in front of your, just smaller on your other message, or you could see the message on your phone while having a video chat on your computer. But if you
right on. So I just occurred to me because I was like, it's kind of interesting because then you could be sending those messages to the game master or whoever, and no one would know, right? And that's kind of a cool feature that you don't really have in any other, like at the normal table or whatever.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
There's always that thing where you pass a note to the GM, but everybody sees you pass the note and sees the note come back and automatically thinks that you're up to something because you are. True.
Right on. So how long were the sessions that you guys played for?
I think the longest one was like 4 hours, and then the shortest one, say, was.
So I know we've talked about this before when we play Night Witches, right? Since we sit down and the mics are in front of us, it seems like when we're actually gaming, we get much, much more done in the same amount of time game-wise than we do with any other game. Did it feel the same, like similar to that because the medium was different, or was it less game? Does it make sense?
I think there was still like a decent amount of conversation at the beginning, but I do think that we got more gaming done in general. It's kind of hard to say because like more interruption too, just like with background stuff as kids, and like when we're all actually in a space together. I mean, it's a little bit more separate than if you're just like on the phone on your computer or whatever. But I think in all get more actual gaming accomplished. Plus, it's frustrating to have side conversation in a video chat scenario because then you can't hear what's going on. And even if you're the one that's causing the side conversation problem, you quickly yourself because then you miss things and then the GM's like, what? I didn't hear what this person's saying.
Well, I guess the spotlight becomes very clear. So like in terms of like sharing the spotlight and moving the spotlight around as a game master, it becomes very, very clear because sometimes in the moment at table, you can be caught up in like the moment and everybody's laughing and joking, having a good time. But like one thing that I noticed at least was because of the way the audio works when you're doing those kind of things, you can't hear individuals, you know what I mean? Like you don't have people piped into individual, speakers in your head, in your ears. So it really kind of means that there's only one person on the stage at a time in a lot of ways. Do you know what I mean? Outside of the group agreement of, oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
I think that has benefits and drawbacks, too.
I agree.
It's easier to kind of put the spotlight on an individual, but at the same time, if you're someone who does not naturally speak up or interject, then it's very easy to be talked over.
Right.
Which...
I agree. I also think at a certain point, it's kind of easier maybe for the GM to prompt players individually because because when...
Well, I think it's not even that it's easier. It's completely more, it's more necessary.
Right.
Like you have to check in and be like, oh, well, what are you doing, James? And then, okay, Lacey, what's your plan?
Right.
To kind of, and it's interesting because in that group chat too, one thing that I noticed that Carrie does really well is addressing who you're talking to. Because if you just say, okay, well, what are you going to do next? Like,
right. Yeah.
Well, who's you? Like you have to address each person by name when you're, and she used our character names, which is another thing that she did really well, is incorporate the actual play, the player character.
So how many, I guess it's important to mention, Carrie was running, and then how many players?
4 and 5.
It's 5. Okay. So pretty good table size, I would say. It's not an overwhelming amount, but definitely enough to have to manage the table, so to speak, right?
Now, I will say, just for like knowledge or whatever, one of those players is actually physically with her.
Yeah.
So that's a little easier to manage as far as measuring.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about that because we had done some stuff before with Fergus way back in the day where when he first moved, we were trying to game, I think we played a few sessions or something, or maybe something with Carrie and Lee, I believe we did, in the basement at the old house, and 2 of us were there and 2 of us were not. Yeah. And I found it to be terribly distracting because it was hard.
There was I don't think there was video for that.
There was. It was on the laptop. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. But it is,
I don't know. I think it's easier if the person, like if the GM is in the room with someone else. If it's 2 players and neither of them is in the room with the GM, then it's more difficult because you can't always see both people when they're sharing a screen, and that part is tricky. But if it's actually the GM who's in there with the other player, that's not so bad.
Right.
But there were some points where with Carrie and Lee sharing a camera where we kind of lost Lee because he wasn't directly in front, so I couldn't hear him very well, or I couldn't really see him to see how he was reacting to things.
Right.
So I guess that part is, that's true.
Right. So in our case, when the session that I played with you guys, I was on my laptop and you were on another one. So it worked out that way because while we were both sitting next to one another.
Once we figured out the echo.
Yeah, we had to get the mics figured out and everything else. But once we got that figured out, it worked out just fine because we were both like at the same table, but both, like had our own windows open and that kind of stuff, which is kind of nice because at the same time, sometimes I might want to be looking something up, a question about whatever I have, because I was looking up stuff about 17th century Irish clothing or something is what I believe I was Googling at the time. So that way I'm not monopolizing the entire screen or whatever while you're trying to do something. So that was nice and convenient. All right, so I guess to start off with, I feel like, and I'm going to make an assumption here, we had talked about in that group chat and gone around a little bit about making accounts for Roll20 or True20 or whatever it is, and a couple of the different virtual tabletop platforms, but never really pulled the trigger on actually using it. And I don't know why that is, if it's just simpler to use a chat that we already have established when it's already got a video function of it. And in our case, at our table, we don't use a lot of battle map stuff. So it, like, the tactical part of the combat isn't quite as in the weeds gritty about counting hexes and that kind of stuff, right? So in terms of...
It's funny you should say that because Isaiah, who's our 14-year-old, asked me about, well, how do you guys know what you're doing then? And I was like, imagination.
Right.
Well, the way we used to do it back in the day.
Exactly. But I also think that if you wanted to have something like that but didn't want to go full on to a gridded, map, is that you could do the Fate style combat where you divide the battlefield into zones and say this battlefield we're in the inn, right? And this is the common room zone and the bar zone and then the hearth zone, right? And then you just say it's an action to move from one zone to another, and it's that in the same way that Fate does. And I think you can incorporate that very easily into a D&D OSR style game.
Like, I think I could keep that in my head and picture easily enough without having to have to refer back to. And like, you can show picture and stuff, but it's not up there permanently. And you can send things in the mess or two. So if you wanted everybody to have a map, there's the potential as well.
So what my plan is to do is when I run Morkborg is I've got a folder that I shared that I may put some resources in there that for maps and that kind of stuff for people to reference if they want to look at them or whatever. So
I did. We were going to be talking about the online game thing, so I had asked Kalen, my brother, about it because since his gaming group had left town some time ago, he basically exclusively gamed distance gaming, and so what he uses is Discord,
right?
Which is pretty popular among people, and it's video chat setup, but he said the thing that he likes about it is that you can display things for the players.
Yeah, there's a screen share feature on there.
Yeah.
Someone on our Facebook group, I believe it was Alex, if I remember correctly, recommended that to use that they use Discord because they had a screen share. And the cool thing about it was that I thought is that it has an actual live screen share feature. So you could it's not like a screen capture and then you share a picture. It's actually the live screen as you move your mouse around. They can see. Right. So you can gesture at things.
Like IT people.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to take control. Share
right. Like, yeah, that's not where I want to move the mouse. What are you doing? Right.
Witchcraft. It's digital witchcraft.
I haven't seen that. Oh, I was trying to give credit where credit was due. Yeah, I was right. As Alex. So I guess where I kind of want to go a little bit is when a lot of the games that we talk about in our style of running games and the games that we play, there's a lot of theme and feel to them to sort of capture sort of like the feel of the world or whatever, right? To make it feel like this is a different, like the Genesis should feel like the Genesis and Dread should feel like, horror of whatever flavor, right? And Mothership and, right? So in terms of playing in the Lamentations game, what?
I'm just picturing like an online Dread game, but it's like chess where like you're moving both sets of pieces for the other person.
Wicked cool thing that I read about is that there is an online version of Jenga, right, that you can use for Dread. However, there's a VR version of it, right, where you're doing it by VR, but each time you pull a block, the fingers get longer. So it makes it harder and harder to pull the blocks out.
Weird.
I know. I was like,
why would you add that?
I don't, to make some extra challenge, I guess. I don't know. But could you imagine how hard that would get when they're like Edward Scissorhands still trying to play Jenga? So yeah.
Yes, push the block all the way out, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, right on. So I guess where I was going before is that in terms of the other Lamentations games that Carrie has ran and games that you've played in, do you feel like it captured the same feel thematically being online versus being physically there?
I think so. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a bear, really, because so much of that is just in description.
Okay, right on. I was just curious because some games that we have, and I'm trying to get better at incorporating it now, or have been over the past year or whatever, is trying to incorporate more like thematic elements like props and music and stuff.
Feeling like horror suspense would be a little difficult.
Right.
Because you don't have any for the atmosphere of the other people.
Right.
Creating the actual physical space.
Well, that and like the camera shifts that you go back and forth between players.
And just subtle changes in tone and manners. All of that is difficult to capture and to
No, I agree.
feel.
I agree. Well, then I'm just thinking about how like one of the things that I like to use when trying to build horror and suspense in a game is like sort of like when there's quick cuts between scene back and forth in the scene, between two separate groups or whatever. I like to do that, and it's kind of jarring at the table when it happens, and I don't think that would work very well like in that video conference kind of a way. So I was just curious. So because
although I feel like if you were tech savvy,
right,
I don't know how to do any of that, but
it would be wicked cool. Like
I'm sure there's something interesting to do.
Make it like fuzzy.
Right.
Yeah, that would be wicked cool.
I would just be flipping the light switch off.
Oh, some really wicked cool like radio free death moments or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Oh man, that would be really cool to do. Whoa. To just like play it quietly in the background, like have it on a Bluetooth speaker, just like slightly just within mic range. Do you know what I mean? So it's like quietly playing. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you hear that? I'm a terrible person. So most of what we have done so far has been classic Lamentations D&D style stuff, like OSR style stuff, right? So do you feel like it would be, you already kind of mentioned suspense stuff being difficult, but like what about Vampire or games along that kind of path, or like investigation-y stuff? Do you think it would be able to work? Or
well, I think mentioned at the end of the episode, and I can't remember if you left it in or cut it out, about doing an Elder Vampire game from a distance digital standpoint, and I pretty much think that it was created for that.
Well, no, I agree.
It's the most obvious solution of something awesome to do with distance gaming.
Right. But that's a specific style of Elder game, though. I guess what I'm talking about is more of like a traditional vampire game.
But why would you do that when you could do the other thing? I can't think of a good reason.
Well, no, but maybe that's what people are comfortable with. I don't know. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, get out your comfort zone. What better time than right now?
True that. That's
when
sort
life
of like
is on its head.
Yeah, that's sort of our motto about things anyway. So, what about like Gumshoe? Do you think Gumshoe would work in that situation as well? I mean, I realize that you could play all of them, but do you think that you could get like that same 90% of the feel out of the game in the virtual space?
I don't know. I think that Gumshoe might be another one of those games that might actually be a little bit cooler distance game.
Why is that?
Because of the separation. And when you're in that game, you're separate from what's actually happening. You're like an outside entity that's examining.
Right.
I mean, that's what an investigation is.
Right.
Like you're the outside perspective looking at something that you don't really belong to. And I think the actual physical separation would make that more palpable.
Right.
And I don't know, the idea of getting like an individual clue.
No, I agree. I was just thinking about the clue aspect of it. Like if you had actual digital clues to hand out.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool.
When you are in a scene and I'm running this gumshoe scene for you, Carrie and Lee and Kurt and Alan and whoever could be looking at the documents that have been given out or whatever and kind of going through things or whatever.
Plus, you could maybe send somebody actual crime scene.
Oh, well,
the internet is a fascinating and scary place.
True.
So, like, here's this picture.
Right.
What do you see?
Right. No, there's some interesting potential there. I agree. I just wonder.
There's whole online games dedicated to that. Like, like silly little app games that are dedicated to just murder investigation.
Do you know what else I'm kind of thinking might be really cool? Is to do like a sci-fi mothership game, but you guys are all in your own either space stations or pods. And like you can really lean into the theme of the online part of it because it reinforces what you're doing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, oh man, like, yeah, because like you could make it be like, okay, cool. So you're going to do this. Okay, cool. So and if you could really get people to lean into it, you could be like, okay, so I want you to shut your camera off for 5 minutes because you're off doing whatever, right? While everybody else is trying, do you know what I'm saying? Like, or maybe you orbited behind the moon for the next 15 minutes. So you're going to, like that could be really, really, really cool.
I think it's even better if you have the video on, but the audio goes out for things because then you can still see somebody trying to communicate. And you're like, what are they saying? We can't hear you.
That's really cool though, because you could really that's a great way to lean into the technology to make it reinforce the themes of what you're doing. Because you got to think about it, and obviously you got to be delicate with it, especially right now. But like we've talked about before about the themes of sci-fi horror is isolation and all this kind of stuff, right? And you're literally interacting through the idiot box, basically, right? And so, oh man, it's so good. That's such a cool idea. I may have to do Quick Morkborg and then breast out the mothership because that could be wicked cool. Or just any.
You said breast out the mothership.
Breast out the mothership.
Freudian slip.
But like, it wouldn't even have to be mothership necessarily. But it's just some kind of sci-fi, whether it was fate or whatever, right? But that could be a lot of fun. Right on. True that. All right, right on. So I guess I don't really have much else. The only thing I was going to ask you is that if you think that there are any extra considerations that you thought of in terms of running the game and not playing the game that you would have to. We already talked about spotlight sharing and that kind of stuff.
Spotlight sharing, people by name. I think those are the biggest ones that come to mind.
I think what I am going to do for the Morkborg game is that I'm going to get the little tabbies and write everybody's name on it, like their character name, and then tab it like around the perimeter of the. That way, I don't have to look for anything. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like right there. So maybe some good use of Post-it notes might help for notes about things or whatever, because you can just like pop that off, write it down, put it back up there. And then in terms of if you have a game notebook or whatever, when you're done, you can just take those back off, slap them in your notebook, close the notebook, and your next session, you open it back up, slap them up there, ready to go. Right on. I think it could work really well. I think there's some cool ideas and some cool potential there. I think the sci-fi thing and then obviously the Elder game that we talked about could be lots and lots of fun. So lots of cool things to come. So I have one last thing before we shut this thing down. Before I left for New York, our last episode that we recorded was Gaming for Two, and we said we were going to run some games, and we haven't done that yet.
I prepped one.
Oh, what did you prep? Okay, right on. So,
but then I wasn't sure if you wanted to play it back because it's like really trippy, like Headspace game.
Oh no!
And we were in a difficult place for a minute. So
no. So I think I'm good now. Like when I first got back, I was just not in the mood to game. I just didn't want to. I was peopled out essentially, right? I wanted to be around my family and just be left alone essentially. So I after I got back, I took. I think you guys played 2 sessions, and I sat out for both of those sessions.
Yeah. Well, and that's a fantasy game too. This more of like a conspiracy deep state dive. So that's a little extra on the nose.
Right. No, I think I'm good to go now. It really wasn't anything about themes or tones. It was just anything. I just didn't want to play anything for a little bit. But I think I'm good now. I'm ready to play some games and have some fun and kind of get back to some kind of version of normal. So I'm all about trying it out. So maybe Thursday or Sunday, maybe we can try it out and see what's up. So, because I think we're playing Friday, Saturday, right? No, I'm running Morkborg on Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. I knew. I feel like we're now. We did Corona.
Well, I guess in some ways it's easier to be at your house than it is to travel somewhere because for us.
Well, everybody's social events calendar wiped clean.
That's true, yeah. It's like, oh, we did it. Oh, no.
Look at all these free days we have.
Right. We even got some like during the week gaming going. I think you guys had happened. So I was like, oh man, look at this. This is pretty cool. So, all right, right on. So I think, do you have anything else to wrap this one up, or is that good there?
I guess my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is just you don't have to download anything special or do anything special. Like the biggest reason why we picked Facebook Messenger is because we already had a group chat going anyway.
Right.
With everybody in it that we wanted to game with. So it's like, oh, hey, everybody clearly already has this app. Let's just use this.
Right.
So don't think you need to do something fancy. Just do it and you'll feel better connect with your friends and your people. So
no, I agree 100% because that was my thing is that I thought, man, I really don't want to learn one more piece of software.
Right, exactly.
Is what it came down to for me. And not that the products that are out there aren't, I mean, they could be great. I don't know. I don't use them, but I've already learned all these games. I don't want to have to learn how to use this game on this system now. So there's, and really, I think in a way it's kind of a cop out, but I was like, I can already get most of what I'm already doing anyway, because we're not very tactical about our combat stuff. It's more thematic and narrative, I guess. So yeah, I think it worked for us and for our table. So I guess, mileage may vary and, use what works for your table, but for us, it worked great. So right on. Alrighty. Well, I think that'll do it for us this week. So if you all out there have had any great experiences with online gaming or terrible ones, we'd love to hear about them. I'm kind of curious to see maybe I've basically made an entire career of learning from other people's mistakes so I don't make them the same ones, right? So if you have any great successes or terrible flops about gaming online and whatnot, give us a shout out and let us know. We'd love to take a look at your mishaps or your successes because it's always fun to look back at things that have gone terribly wrong and have a good laugh at them. But you can hit us up at james@justformorefix.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter @justformorefix, or you can join our Facebook group and share it over there. As you know, we are a member of the Gonna Geek Network, so you can support us over there, as well as all the other geeky podcasts and geeky content that they have going on over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. And if you really like what we do here at Just More Fix, you can support us at patreon.com/JustOneMoreFix and get access to all of our raw audio feeds and our zines in print and PDF format, depending on what level you support at, and join the awesome ranks of all of our Patreon supporters like Tiziano Furlano, Hector Treelane, Jameson White, Paul Hubbard, Timothy Barra, Alistair H., Simon McNair, Alan White, and the OG Todd Olson. Big thank you to all of them for sticking with us through all this sort of a little brief break that we had while I was off working, and really just appreciate all the support that all of you have continued to show us over the past several years, as this is episode 160, which is pretty awesome. And I guess just stay healthy and keep gaming, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for listening. This has been an episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at Incompetech.com. You can support us at Patreon.com/JustOneMoreFix, or follow us on Twitter @JustOneMoreFix.